Our story begins inside of the Chancellor's office as Mace Windu flicked Palpatine's lightsaber out of the grand window and has cornered the Sith Lord, telling him he has lost. The culmination of years of galactic war led to this very moment, and Windu was looking down at Sidious with hatred for the billions of lives affected by this conflict. The Sith were a stain on the galaxy, and Windu knew deep down what had to be done. And then Anakin Skywalker arrived. Windu was really not surprised by this, and he held out a hand to try and show Anakin that he has this under control. Windu said that he's going to end this once and for all, and despite Anakin's objections, Windu raised his lightsaber, preparing to swing down. As he did, Anakin ignited his own blade, swinging up and through the wrist of Windu. The Jedi Master was completely caught off guard, screaming out in pain as Sidious suddenly blasted lightning right into him. Windu was caught in the electric storm, body convulsing, as Sidious poured more and more lightning into him. Anakin Skywalker stepped back, suddenly horrified by what he was seeing. When he came into the room, he saw Palpatine looking like a helpless old man, cornered by a power-hungry Jedi. But now, as Sidious slowly got to his feet and screamed out that he had unlimited power, Anakin realized he made a mistake. This man was pure evil. Allowing him to be around Padme was the worst choice he could make. Sidious seemed to sense this shift in Anakin. He turned to him, ripping the blue saber right from Anakin's hands. But Anakin would not be denied making up for his great mistake. He summoned as much of the Force as he possibly could, blasting a Force push right into Sidious. The Sith Lord screamed out as he was flung from the window, flying out into the night sky as his screams went silent. And in the office, Mace Windu's body continued to spasm as he dropped to his knees, clutching at his cut-off hand. Through the pain of it all, he told Anakin to go to Palpatine's communicator, have all of the Grand Army shut off any communications coming out of Coruscant. They cannot allow Sidious to call for help. Anakin was confused. Surely Sidious couldn't have survived the fall, but Windu looked up, eyes full of anger and warning, telling Anakin he still doesn't get it. Sidious is far more powerful than he understands. He is still alive. So, communications from the Grand Army and from Coruscant would be cut off, and Anakin would go to the temple with Windu to organize search teams for Sidious. Windu was extremely frustrated with Anakin for cutting his hand off, obviously, but he decided right now was not the best time to dwell on these emotions. Anakin made the right choice in the end, albeit extremely late, but he did choose the Jedi. Windu would go to the Temple Medical Center, and work would begin on a new hand. Meanwhile, dozens of Jedi Knights and Masters would spread out into the Coruscant streets that were dark in the night. The search for Darth Sidious was one filled with anxiety and panic for Anakin. He could have killed him in that moment with Windu. He could have made the right choice from the start. He still held out hope that Sidious died in the fall, but he knew Windu was right. Sidious was alive. Anakin took a moment to just breathe and think about where he could be. He was with a team of Jedi Knights when he realized Padme could be in danger, and so, as the group turned down an alleyway, Anakin held back, separating from the group, taking off for Padme's apartment. He hurried over, knowing Sidious could be targeting her and the unborn child, and when Anakin arrived, Padme was in the washroom preparing for sleep. She gently smiled at Anakin, asking if everything was alright, and Anakin breathed a huge sigh of relief. But then, his comlink would beep, and one of the Jedi Knights asked Anakin where he was. His name was Sarib Inab, and he was a bit older than Anakin. Sarib would tell Anakin that he may have found something, a trail of blood leading into an old building. Anakin told them to wait, but then, over the comlink, Anakin heard choking sounds, followed by a lightsaber piercing through flesh and bone. Sarib gasped, and Sidious could be heard laughing over the comlink. Anakin then just flew out of Padme's apartment, going as fast as he could down to the streets of Coruscant, to the location of these Jedi. He had to save them, but when Anakin arrived, it was too late. He found 6 bodies of Jedi cut up by a lightsaber, and above Anakin, a Republic shuttle would blast off. Anakin watched it go, knowing that the Sith Lord has just escaped Coruscant. Anakin hurried back to the temple, finding Mace Windu in the communications room, speaking with the clone captain in space that was in charge of the Republic blockade. They reported that the Republic shuttle just blasted into hyperspace. There was no way to track exactly where the ship has gone. Mace would slam his good fist into the table, looking at Anakin with disappointment, saying they've missed their chance. The Jedi would go over every possible course of action that Sidious could take, and in doing this, Anakin remembered 5s. An immediate order to have all inhibitor chips removed would go into effect, and although it would take a very long time, it was deemed absolutely necessary. And far away in the galaxy, Darth Sidious would land his shuttle on the planet Dathomir, where his darkness could be well hidden. He had new plans to eradicate the Jedi. Despite their mini victory, in time, he would be victorious. As for the Jedi, days would go by with no leads on Sidious's location. Groups of Masters, Knights, and Padawans would spread out into the galaxy, searching for any sign of the Dark Lord, but there was no luck. Meanwhile, Mace Windu was handling the political side of things. He hadn't slept in days, as he navigated the Senate panicking over the disappearance of Palpatine. He was working to convince the Senate that Palpatine was evil, but the Senate was fighting back, claiming that the Jedi assassinated the Chancellor in a grab for power. Anakin would testify with Padme, saying that he saw Palpatine's true nature, and Anakin's fame helped to influence the Senate just a bit. And when Padme and Bail both spoke in favor of the Jedi, the tide began to turn in their favor. And because Grievous was dead, the Separatist leaders were easily captured on Mustafar, and peace negotiations would get underway. The war would end, but the Jedi knew the greatest danger of all was still out in the galaxy, planning something. And out in the galaxy, on the furthest end of Mustafar now, that all planetary records said was abandoned, Darth Sidious would land his shuttle, approaching a hidden fortress. Inside of this fortress was where the Shadow Collective, Maul's criminal empire, was currently hiding out. Before Maul was captured on Mandalore, he contacted the leaders of the Shadow Collective, including Dryden Voss, Crimson Dawn, Pikes, Black Sun, and Sidious, that would blast these doors down, entering to quickly be surrounded by hundreds of criminals as Dryden Voss approached, asking who he was. Sidious removed his hood to reveal the face of Palpatine. He said he was once the master of Darth Maul. He's been keeping close tabs on this Shadow Collective, and with Maul's defeat, he is offering to be their new leader and bring them into wealth they've only dreamt of. Sidious would naturally be challenged by 3 Black Sun members, and Sidious would display his power, showing these criminals that he is not to be messed with. Dryden Voss would see the opportunity in front of him as the Shadow Collective submitted to Sidious's rule. Sidious said they must prepare their entire fleet to go to Malachor. That is where the Jedi will die, allowing them to rule the galaxy instead. And back on Coruscant, as the days just kept piling up and the search for Sidious only got more hopeless, Obi-Wan Kenobi prepared himself in the Jedi Council to present an idea that was not exactly something he was fond of. Over these many days of searching for Sidious, Obi-Wan Kenobi could see the toll that it was taking on Anakin and the rest of the Council. Anakin was beyond stressed, and Obi-Wan was finally able to infer that Anakin was the father of Padme's child. Padme recently told Obi-Wan that Anakin was having nightmares about her dying, and Obi-Wan knew this all had to end quickly. So he would stand in front of the council, saying he knows how they can find Sidious. They must use Maul. Deep in the Jedi Temple basement, Maul was being kept in the Mandalorian vault. He could barely move. He could only feel the Force. He was left to his own thoughts. He could feel Sidious out in the galaxy, plotting something. He knew his former master was far too cunning to give up after the first plan failed. And after more days than Maul knew went by, the doors to his cell finally would open. Obi-Wan Kenobi walked in alone, and he told Maul that the Jedi Order needs his help. Kenobi released some of the restraints on Maul's face, and Maul just chuckled a bit, asking why he would ever help them. Obi-Wan said they both know the truth. Maul's real enemy has always been Sidious. He took Maul away from his mother, from his family, trained him as nothing more than a weapon of the Sith, then simply discarded of him. Maul stared at Kenobi with burning eyes. He wanted to rip the Jedi apart, but unfortunately, he was right. He would rather watch Sidious lose everything, and then find a way to kill Kenobi. So, Maul told Kenobi that if he wants his help finding Sidious, he will need to be released from this cell. The two of them will go alone, find Sidious together, and then they will alert the Jedi as to where he is. Kenobi turned away, saying it's impossible. If Maul won't help from inside the cell, then he won't be helping at all. Maul laughed, calling Kenobi a fool, saying he will see him again soon. And it would only be a few more days until the council told Kenobi that they agree to Maul's terms. If releasing him and sending him out with Kenobi will help them find Sidious, they have no other choice. Once this is over, Maul will be imprisoned again. Obi-Wan would say he can't do it. Being around Maul brings out the worst parts of him. But after the council meeting, Obi-Wan would see Anakin, tired, stressed, obviously not sleeping well, and Obi-Wan would know the only way to help Anakin is by eradicating the dark cloud hanging over the galaxy. With the disappearance of Sidious, Anakin lost the urge to turn to the dark side. Instead, he spent all of his time just trying to calm himself, talking to Padme, learning to trust the Force, but it was not easy at all. And finally, Obi-Wan would return to Maul's cell, and Maul would say he's been expecting him. This is going to be fun. And so for several days, Kenobi endured one of the greater challenges in his life as a Jedi, working alongside Darth Maul. The arrangement was necessary, but it felt like being poisoned to death. Maul loved what he was doing, as he was dragging Kenobi from planet to planet, taunting him constantly, forcing him to stare at the murderer of both Qui-Gon and Satine. Their partnership was a cruel joke to Maul. He relished every moment of Obi-Wan's hatred and discomfort. Maul was hoping to end all of this by seeing Sidious lose everything and then killing Kenobi, even if it results in his own demise. Meanwhile, in the Jedi Temple, Anakin was keeping constant tabs on this mission. He hated the idea of Obi-Wan being out there with Maul, but the Council assured him it was necessary. Their journey would begin on Nar Shaddaa, where Maul led Obi-Wan through neon-lit alleys and dens of information brokers. Maul moved into conversations with criminals and spies. His presence alone was enough to make them tremble and simply talk. Maul was very well known. In these Outer Rim planets, everyone feared him. Obi-Wan followed along, silent, but always burning inside, hand always near his saber, and each time Maul extracted a clue about Sidious's movements, he turned to Kenobi with a smirk, reminding him that the Jedi need him. On Corellia, Maul would provoke a skirmish with Crimson Dawn enforcers, dragging Obi-Wan into a fight that was entirely unnecessary. Obi-Wan's blade did cut down attackers, and Maul fought with a reckless joy, grinning through all of it, laughing at Kenobi's restraint. Maul used the Force as his weapon, throwing these enemies around like they were nothing, breaking them in pursuit of information. He yelled out at Obi-Wan that this is what it's truly like to live with the Force. The more Maul spoke, the more Kenobi could feel a shadow in himself, a dangerous part of his soul that Maul wanted to bring forward. Obi-Wan could never let it out. And in this fight, Maul would finally learn where Sidious has gone. He's taken the Collective to Malachor, a planet Sidious took Maul to in his early training. Maul could only laugh. Of course, he took the Shadow Collective to the planet with a giant super weapon, and Maul would simply leave out that information, not telling the Jedi that a super weapon may be waiting for the Jedi on Malachor. But he would tell the Jedi that only he truly knows the way around the planet, so he will need to be coming with them on this mission to take down Sidious. In the end, Obi-Wan was beyond relieved to be done with this mission. He truly could not take much more, and in a meeting with the Council, the Jedi would say they cannot spare any expenses for this final battle. Every available master would be going to Malachor, along with the 501st and 212th armies. This would be the end of the fighting, no matter what. And on Malachor, Sidious was waiting patiently, as a single Jedi ship would soon emerge into the planet. A Jedi Temple guard was here, one that Sidious had spent time grooming for his role as the Grand Inquisitor. Instead, he would now be taking over as Sidious's apprentice, with Anakin gone, as the Sith Temple here on Malachor required a master an apprentice to open it and access the holocron that could activate the super weapon. When the Inquisitor arrived, Sidious laid out the plan. He knows the Jedi will have recruited Maul to help locate him. That is why he's using the Shadow Collective. He knows they will soon tell Maul the truth, and before long, Maul and an army containing the most powerful Jedi in the galaxy will be here. Together, the two of them will arm the super weapon, and they will leave before it goes off, killing everyone else here, allowing Palpatine to return to the galaxy as Emperor. The Grand Inquisitor proclaimed his full loyalty to the Sith, and together, the two of them got to work on unlocking it. Meanwhile, in hyperspace, Mace Windu stood in a Venator command bridge with the entire Jedi Council, including Anakin, Obi-Wan, and now Darth Maul himself. And the other Venators around them in hyperspace, thousands of clones, hundreds more Jedi, prepared themselves for battle. Mace laid out exactly what they know. Malachor is the home of an ancient Sith temple. Sidious is here with the Shadow Collective. According to the history books, thousands of years ago, the Jedi and Sith fought a great battle here. Neither side truly won, but today, the Jedi and the Republic would be victorious. They have to be. And as they approached, Anakin would sneak away into a private area and have a call with Padme via hologram. She would excitedly inform Anakin that after he left, she went into labor and gave a safe birth to twins, Luke and Leia. It was the greatest moment of Anakin's life. He said he cannot wait to see her when this is all over. And finally, the Republic fleet would emerge from hyperspace and begin their descent into the atmosphere of Malachor. Immediately, the Shadow Collective fleet surged forward. This fleet was made up of all sorts of different massive battleships covered with weapons, and swarms of starfighters began pouring into the skies from both sides. Waves of clone and Jedi starfighters were diving into the swarming ships of the Pikes, the Black Sun, and the Crimson Dawn. Explosions bloomed as ships fell from the clouds into the desolate surface below. On the ground, the First Republic troop carriers descended into a storm of blaster fire. Clones of the 501st and 212 poured into the gray ground. Endless lines of Shadow Collective soldiers surged forward, carrying crude weapons, blasters, war banners from hundreds of worlds. The clash was merciless. Jedi were leading from the front. Mace Windu cut through enemies in his pursuit to end what should have ended weeks ago in Palpatine's office. Every strike of his blade cutting through weapons and flesh. Soldiers rallying behind him as he carved a path through pike formations. Behind him, Yoda moved faster than any of the crime soldiers ever could have expected, flying through ranks of Black Sun mercenaries as entire squads fell beneath his fury. On his side, Anakin and Ahsoka tore across the battlefield, with Rex and a 501st group behind them, blades cutting through shielded vehicles, and the clones were more than happy to follow this duo into one final battle. And close to them, Obi-Wan fought with Maul, continuing this nightmare. Obi-Wan's movements were controlled, while Maul was wild, relentless, pushing towards the ancient temple, deep in Malachor's surface. The battle raged above and below, ships burning away in the skies, bodies falling in the ancient Sith world. And slowly, the Jedi pressed forward, and this time, Plo Koon and Kit Fisto led the charge as they cut down a line of defenders, clearing the entrance to the temple for a moment. With the path open, Maul stepped forward, guiding Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka into the shadows of this temple as the great battle roared on outside, and the fate of the galaxy drew closer. Only Maul knew how to navigate this temple. He would guide the Jedi to the top, but at the top, Darth Sidious floated a Sith holocron up to the activation spire, giving the Grand Inquisitor a new mission: wait until he is gone, and then activate the weapon alone, as there would not be time for them to escape. The Inquisitor will have to do it and fall here in sacrifice. The Inquisitor bowed to Sidious, saying it will be done. He's willing to die for the Sith Empire. But as Sidious turned to board his shuttle, he was faced with new arrivals. Anakin, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Maul were here. Sidious snarled, saying they cannot stop what is to come. All of their friends will die today. Only he will be left standing. Maul, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka ignited their blades, rushing forward, clashing in a duel with Sidious. Anakin pressed the hardest, his strength forcing Sidious back as Obi-Wan flowed between him, with Ahsoka darting around the side of the Sith Lord. Maul surged forward as well, but Sidious moved with terrifying power, twisting in a sudden burst, hurling Maul across the platform. His body smashed against the altar. He slid at the base of the weapon, humming with ancient energy. The air was crackling, and in that instant, Maul's burning eyes saw the truth. The key to his final revenge lay within his grasp. As Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka continued their duel, blades sparking against Sidious's strikes, Maul got up, quickly killing the Grand Inquisitor before he could act. And then, Maul put his hands to the spire, activating the holocron inside. The temple awoke with a scream of ancient power, energy coursing through the stone. The ground shook violently as the weapon prepared itself. Sidious and the Jedi turned as the lightning erupted outward, firing tendrils at every single person and ship in this battle. Maul activated it, and there was no going back now. The sky lit with the red glow of the electricity as every single ship, Republic, Shadow Collective alike, was struck by the arcs of crimson lightning. The Venators and the cruisers were torn apart midair, exploding into fallen wreckage that burned through the atmosphere, crashing into the ground. In the wasteland, thousands of fighters went from their chaotic fight to suddenly convulsing as bolts carved through them, armor cracking, bodies burning to ash. Rex and Cody fell together, Jedi scattered across the battlefield as they were all struck, one by one, bodies falling dead. Windu, Yoda, Plo, Shaak Ti, every council member, all of the hundreds of Jedi here, fell in silence, struck by this super weapon. On the platform, Maul had closed his eyes as the lightning fired directly into him, and then right into Anakin, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, Sidious. Obi-Wan staggered, smoke rising from his robes as he fell beside his friends. Anakin thought of Padme and the children as he died. Sidious felt his entire life's work slip away, and Maul died, knowing he got his final revenge. The sky was a single sheet of fire, lightning branching endlessly, consuming everything alive on Malachor. Every ship collapsed into the surface like a meteor, as the power of the superweapon left 0 survivors. Clones, Jedi, Sith, criminals, all erased in an instant. And as the temple weapon finally ceased its power, Malachor once more was a tomb for thousands. As ships continued to crash, no one left alive. In the aftermath of Malachor, the galaxy would soon recover from this loss. The Republic would find strength in politicians like Bail Organa. With his leadership, the Senate could reform, corruption could be stripped away without the Sith interfering, and new systems of transparency could be brought into place. The Republic, without the Jedi or Sith, slowly became a government serving its people. Malachor was a reminder of the cost of the unchecked power and the darkness that nearly consumed everything. The Jedi Order was completely shattered. With so many masters dead, the entire council gone, the Order drifted away from Coruscant. The Force was still present, but the Order was a shell of itself, scattered all out across the galaxy. Out on Naboo, Padme Amidala was raising her children in peace. Luke and Leia would grow up, surrounded by love, despite Padme's heartbreak over Anakin's death on Malachor. As the years passed by and the Republic entered an age of recovery, the twins would grow up strong, their connection to the Force undeniable. They would find other Jedi groups out in the galaxy, and they would begin training with Padme's help in finding these Jedi. In time, as the Republic was thriving and worlds were prospering once more, Luke and Leia Skywalker were the first of a new generation of Jedi. The Order would return to the galaxy as a small circle of hope, and as the galaxy was healing, the children of Anakin and Padme were standing at its center. And folks, that is our story for today. One with a different ending than usual. Obviously, usually these stories have a happier ending, but I wanted to do something where, I don't know, Palpatine doesn't win, but he also doesn't necessarily lose, right? I wanted to do something where basically everyone just dies, because why not? Still, you know, it's not like the Empire takes over. I think if all the Jedi and the Sith died, the Republic would just, like, you know, it'd settle in, because the Sith are holding it back. Anyways, yeah. This was a fun one for me to write. It was definitely different. I understand some people are probably gonna be like, what the hell? But if you want a happier ending, go check out like most of my videos, I guess. Yeah, I really wanted to just do something where Darth Maul, I like the mission with Maul and Obi-Wan kind of being stuck together, because obviously Obi-Wan would hate that. And it was fun to write that quick dynamic, and you know, it was like 1 page long or so that was fun to do. And then Maul, in the end, his mission is to find a way to defeat Sidious and Obi-Wan, and he finds a way to do it while also killing everyone and also, you know, resulting in his own death. Dark stuff, fun stuff. Anyways, yeah, let me know what you guys thought. Unless you didn't like it, then don't tell me. Anyways, appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.